Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Looks like we're live. My name is Harrison Burt. I'm the director of fundraising here at Start Engine. I'm here with Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, and Jan Goetgeluk, the CEO of Virtuix. Virtuix is currently raising a round with Start Engine. Jan, I'll hand it over to you to maybe introduce yourself, give a high-level overview of Virtuix and some of the recent milestones the company has achieved.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Harrison, and nice to see you, Kevin. Yeah, we're Virtuix. We sell and we make the Omni, which is a line of omnidirectional treadmills that let users walk and run around in 360 degrees inside, virtual reality games or other applications. And to date, we've brought 3 awesome products to market. We've generated sales of over $18 million. We have over 400,000 players, 24 patents. And along the way, we raised $40 million from investors, some big names like Mark Cuban, Scout Ventures, Maveron, equity crowdfunding as well. And so we're excited to be back on the platform right now. We just launched Omni One, which is our most recent product. It's our first Omni system for the home for consumers. And it's also our most advanced treadmill to date. We also use it for other applications like defense training and simulation. And we'll get into that as well. But thanks to the launch of Omni One, our revenues have grown 4x in the last fiscal year. So we're growing, we're scaling, and we're excited for the next phase of our company.
Thanks, Jan. And Kevin, I'll go to you for maybe an investor's perspective on the overall VR industry. How have you seen it change the last few years, and where do you envision VR going over the next 5 years?
Most important thing that's happened to VR in the last, I would say, 36 months is the reduction of latency. It seems far better than the first iterations because things are happening at almost real time now, and there's a lot of work done in the background to make that happen. But supportive elements like this are crucial to make the experience real. And what I like about this company is it has sales. Sales cures all because it gives you momentum to show that the market is accepting the product, number one. Secondly, it gets you a base of users that are constantly asking for new features and asking for what they want because they've become part of the community. It builds momentum for the brand because it's in multi-channels. Think about defense is completely different in some ways than what happens in someone's basement at home. But the technology is being used in both and multiple other locations as well. So, you love to find companies where the funding is pouring gasoline on the fire of a proven business model, particularly one that has proven it can acquire customers. Those are the second level in terms of, venture, because you have the speculative phase where it's an idea, unproven, customer acquisition costs, also unproven in adoption. This is not the case here. This is a huge market. This is a competitor in it with proven sales. So that's what I like about this deal.
Thanks, Kevin. And speaking of those sales and sort of the market adoption, Jan, you guys actually sell into a variety of different end markets. It's not just gaming. It's not just direct to consumer. Can you speak to some of those end markets and then maybe the military specifically?
Yeah, bread and butter has been the commercial entertainment market, places like Dave & Buster's, where we've sold our Omni Arena attraction, built up a big player base for the out-of-home entertainment space. And then Omni One, as I mentioned, is our first system for the home for consumers. But then in parallel, we're now also going into the defense market for training and simulation, which always has been a great fit for our product. Training of infantry, special forces, dismounted soldiers. I mean, the military has simulators for airplanes, for tanks, but not for ground troops. So they have to do everything live, which is very expensive, very cumbersome. So we provided the ability to move around inside virtual training environments. Perhaps I can show a quick 30-second clip of OMT, Omni Mission Trainer, which is our training system for defense. And this is just a single soldier station, but we envision 10, 12, 15 of these interconnected for training. Let's take a look.
Yeah, we'll pull that video up.
Yeah, we're already working with the U.S. Air Force on this. They already bought 2 stations. We're also applied for a $1.2 million contract with the Air Force or Air Force Army. It's called dual use. So we have our product for the civilian market, but then in parallel, it can be used for training and simulation and defense, which is a nice combo.
Great. Kevin, seeing that video and as well as the different end markets Virtuix is operating in, how important is that differentiation from an investor perspective, and how do you see them playing in this continuously growing VR space as a whole?
Well, it's use case that matters because, you think about just the basics of any business. If you can prove a use case and get to $1 million in sales, it's very simple. If you can get there to $1 million in sales and have multiple users use the product, endorse the product, in many cases order it again or make more use cases within their own environment, then it's about execution skills. Then it's about how does the management team execute on the business plan to enhance share and grow sales? Because the hardest part of any business is to get adoption. And then, which is really hard because you don't know with certainty until, in this case, the Army, the Air Force uses it and then buys a second unit. Now you know the product is proven, and now it's all about executional skills. It doesn't mean companies don't fail in the executional phase, but if sales are growing, and I've said this countless times in every sector of the economy, because this is what I've learned over decades of investing, doesn't matter what sector or goods or service you're in. If you can get to 1 million, you get to 5. You can get to 5 million, you get to 50 million in sales. You get to 50 million in sales, you get to $500 million. Unless you can't execute, or unless technology changes and wipes you out. I don't think we're at the phase on this product where it's mature yet. It's being found to be used in multiple use cases, entertainment being a big one, but military training is huge. And it's part of the whole trend of digitization. And the fact that the internet gets faster and AI is going to be involved in this eventually as well to make these environments even more interesting for training. So I think the trend is your friend on this deal.
Great. Jan, do you want to speak to maybe some of the future execution you and your team are envisioning? Where does Virtuix really fit in with all your different products to this growing industry as AI plays into that and improves these environments as well?
Yeah, our strategy for our business is that dual use. We have the consumer business, which is scaling, which is growing, where it's entertainment, but we tie the fitness element to that. You're playing video games, but at the same time, you are burning calories, you're active, and that's appealing to a lot of our consumer customers. One of our customers plays every day, lost 40 pounds in 4 months. So those kind of stories are just terrific for us. So that's our scaling of the consumer business. And in parallel, defense is high margin. Consumer, you have high volume. Defense, lower volume, but high margin contracts that we're going after. And it's a different sales cycle. It's a very different market, obviously, but it's a great fit for us as well. And that combination is, I think, our key business model and our key vision for the company going forward.
Great. And Jan, I'll stay with you for a second. A lot of research and development went into your technology. Can you speak about the intellectual property you've developed over that time? And then, Kevin, I'll have you sort of comment on the moat that creates for them specifically within the industry they're operating within.
Yeah, we've secured now 24 patents, 8 more pending, really covering everything about our technology, the hardware, the software integration, the tracking, game integration. It's a complex system. What we make is not a simple widget. The hardware alone has plastics, metals, electronics, fabrics. Then you have the software and the motion tracking with sensor fusion. Then you have to integrate it into content. So luckily for us, what we do is not easily replicated. And so you need a lot of expertise in different areas that we've built up over many years. And that gives us a very strong competitive moat in addition to our patent portfolio.
Kevin, want to talk from an investor's perspective about the importance of ISP in the VR space and the gaming space and what kind of differentiation that provides for Virtuix?
The IP is crucial, actually, because it sets up potential for licensing in other geographies. But in a product like this, it's more than just the IP. The manufacturing process is incredibly complex. And that's part of what's proprietary. You want to have a moat on a product that's in a high growth industry, and certainly VR and gaming is high growth. If it was a simple, hand switch or a new iteration of a tracking device for the hand movement, I see dozens of those all the time. And there's not a lot of new iterations that are better than the ones that were previous, maybe a better latency or comfort. But this is something else. This is really hard to make. And that's good because it's not just, the fact that it's error-free because the manufacturing process has been worked out. It helps the brand. It's almost like you want to be considered the Rolex of your category by the quality and the reputation. And this product has the potential to get there. Because once you have that, you have a bigger moat, and you also can hold margins. Most people want a Rolex, and 45% of watches sold in America are Rolexes. That's not by accident. It's just that's what they want because they've been told by everybody else that's what I have. And so that's what you want to get to in a platform like this, particularly if the military standardizes on it. That's a big deal because once they train the trainer, they don't want to retrain them, or the technician that maintains the platform. They'd rather just have that be standard and work with the company to advance it for the features they want. And that's certainly a very lucrative market, but as you just heard, the sales cycle is much longer, but really lucrative if you can get them. Because, very often the Navy wants what the Air Force has, that kind of thing. And also word of mouth amongst trainers saying this technology, this platform made it easy for them to execute their mandate. That really helps. Very interesting stories, no question about it. Multi-channel is always great for diversifying revenue risk.
And I'm so glad that Kevin brings up indeed the manufacturing and how that creates moat, which is oftentimes overlooked. It's not easy to make complex hardware like ours, and we figured out how to do it. And our production facility can make up to 3,000 units a month, $100 million in annual revenues to start with. And that's moat by itself. And indeed, we're going for a premium product, premium experience. It's not for everybody, but we're trying to be that Rolls Royce of consumer VR entertainment.
And Jan, I want to go back to Kevin's point on the military end market, which is definitely an interesting one. What were your initial conversations with the military training sector like, and what did they see in your technology that made it such a compelling fit?
Yeah, they approached us, frankly. They always have over the years. We've always had a lot of interest from that sector, and we focus on entertainment and gaming first. You can't pursue too many different markets. Typically, one is sufficient. In our case, two for now is a good strategy. But yeah, they really pulled us in that direction. The Air Force bought several stations, reached out, is working with us on it. And for them, there's no way to train for mission rehearsals, certain battles that they do for soldiers, dismounted soldiers, other than going to a live range. Then you have the cost of ammunition, you have to arrange all that, there's time involved. They can't do it virtually very well. Right now, they still use either big projection screens, which are very static, or they start to use more and more VR, but they can't really roam around freely inside a big environment. So for mission rehearsal, for training certain drills like reacting to contact, reacting to ambush, to do that virtually, you need something like our device, so you can walk around freely or run around freely inside that virtual training environment. And there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it today. And it's revolutionary. The US Air Force calls it revolutionary for their training that they can do today. And so we're very excited about those prospects.
Kevin, taking a bit of a step back and looking at the broader industry again, we've all seen these hype cycles within VR in the past. What do you think makes this moment and the next couple of years different, and how Virtuix is positioned different?
I think what's changing it is the production value, the experience of VR now with AI assistance. it has jumped forward quite a bit in the last 18 months. I'll give you an example. In a similar situation as this, in shooting commercials, for example, what often happens if you're doing a high production commercial, a 30-second, a 59-second, a 15-second television commercial, but most of those end up on streaming or social media as well. You would generally shoot it with a green screen, and then in post, you would add backgrounds often generated by AI. In Dubai now, what they've done to reduce production costs by 60%, they've built massive VR studios. The CapEx is a lot, but they have unlimited capital there. So you go into an airplane hangar. So the walls are 40, 50 feet high. They're all digitized. There's various cameras with prompters for script. And using AI, they modify the background live as it's being shot based on the script. This is all VR essentially, so that I was able to shoot a commercial in 20 hours that would have taken 2 weeks in LA. And so it was cheaper to fly the entire crew over to Dubai in an 18-hour flight, go to the studio, shoot it, and that was it. There was no post. That's how advanced this is getting. My point is the experience when you see this and the actual execution, and then you see the commercial, it is so real that it's surreal in the sense that even when you're in the environment, you almost get dizzy, not dizzy, but off balance, because in my case, I was shooting in a 3D world that was live and occurring. And so this is what's going into products like this. And if I compare that to what I was doing 18 months ago, this is a 10x, both in resolution. This was a 6K resolution wall. And all we needed was 1080p, but still it was 6K. So it's growing geometrically in very short periods of time. The experience is stunning, so that now, you know, these soldiers are training in virtually combat situations that are real. I mean, for them, after a few moments, your mind is in combat because it's just so real. And that's what I saw in Dubai. And so if this product is part of that initiative, the growth is geometric here. But it's taken a big leap because you could tell VR was bullshit 2 years ago when you were in the, I shouldn't use that, forget my French, but you know what I mean. It just wasn't real. Now I can't tell. I can't tell. So I've been doing this for years, and what I experienced recently is so real that we're getting to a place that many people haven't experienced this yet. It's stunning. So I mean, this is part of the product evolution to give the actual motion to the body as opposed to just standing there. It makes total sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to add to that, I mean, the big players continue to invest billions of dollars into this space. Meta, of course, but also Apple, Google with Android XR. They continue to invest heavily in this technology. And VR, you're right, VR has followed ups and downs, the Gartner hype cycle, but it is continuing now to get adoption slowly but steadily. The technology continues to get better. And we provide that movement component that we believe is the missing piece of VR. And I'll give an interesting stat. 55% of our customers on the consumer side did not yet have a VR headset when they bought our product. They were not interested in buying a VR headset. They're not VR enthusiasts, but they wanted our product, our experience, being able to move around, walk around, run around inside VR games. That's what they wanted. And so what we provide is just the next level of VR. The VR headset is cool, it's nice, some people like it, some people don't care that much for it, but what we offer is so beyond what you can do on just a flat screen. And then, oh, by the way, it's good for your health because you're active and burning calories. That's appealing to a lot of people.
There's a related question from the audience that I want to pose to both of you guys. Jan, going to you first, you've talked about AI and how it's led to these massive improvements in the VR space in general, as well as your product specifically. The audience is interested in how you could utilize AR in your products.
Yeah, AR is it's a different use case. AR is really where you augment your world around you, where VR is really transporting you to a different world, a virtual world. We're more so in the space of VR because you get transported to a different world. Then you want to move around in that world. Well, guess what? The only way to do it is with our product, unless you want to push a button on a joystick, which one, breaks immersion, two, it gets some people motion sickness. With our product, you don't have that. You don't have that motion sickness. You're physically moving around, which is neat. So it's more of a VR angle from our perspective. It's Ready Player One. That's the world we come from. We sent 2 Omnis to Warner Brothers for the movie, and that's our big vision really for the consumer side.
Kevin, talking about Virtuix and their current fundraising round, you've been a longtime supporter of equity crowdfunding. Why do you think that's a fundraising model that makes sense for a company like Virtuix?
Because it democratizes opportunity. When you're investing in startups or fast growth opportunities, and you're trying to get into a deal that is controlled by a VC. I have nothing against venture capital firms, but they always tend to want to get some kind of preference on the cap table ahead of ordinary investors, or a guaranteed return that other investors don't get. This democratization of equity crowdfunding aligns the interests of the founder with his or her shareholders. And very often, and what I like the best about this, because I've been involved with StartEngine for years now, is the community that buys the product and the service are they're the biggest advocates for ownership of the equity. And that's a very sticky shareholder base, because you're building a community based on solving somebody's pain point, some product or service that people want to own, and they want to be shareholders. That kind of alignment is incredibly good for the long-term outlook of the company, because they tend to buy further issuance as well to stay in their status quo, in their percentage ownership. If there's another issue and the company's enhanced its value, it's the existing base that comes in first very often. And so it's a really great platform for that. And I think Jan's deal is very interesting. We've talked quite a bit about why. But StartEngine itself has many deals like this. And so if you're going to invest $10,000, $20,000, $25,000, $100,000, whatever it is, I always say buy 7 deals. If you like the VR space, you like AI, there's offerings in there. But I like diversification. And I'm always an advocate not to just own one thing, because the rate of growth across different products and platforms differs. I have a portfolio, and that's how I do it. And these portfolios, when you get a winner, and this one sounds like it could be a big one, they take care of a lot of your mistakes. And you're going to make mistakes in venture investing, there's no question about it. But you're looking for companies that are in a rising tide, certainly that's the case here, that have some kind of IP protection. You have that here. That have proven sales, that's a big deal. Sales are everything. I just can't say enough about that. And so really, you have to listen to Jan and say, can this guy execute? That's the decision you're making when you're buying this offering.
Jan, on that fundraising topic, and to Kevin's comment on execution is the key going forward, can you speak to sort of the next 6 months of plans for the company, specifically as it relates to execution and how you're going to use the capital from this round?
Yeah, it's to fuel our growth. As I mentioned at the intro, our revenues grew 4x in the last fiscal quarter, and we want to keep that going, scale our consumer business, and then in parallel, bring up the defense business, the high margin defense contracts, and we're working on that as well. And really pushing that combo forward on both fronts, we believe can create continued growth and value for our shareholders.
Great. In our last minute here, maybe Jan, I'll start with you. Just any final thoughts to investors, to people listening on what your goal is as a company, and then Kevin, we'll leave it to you for final thoughts from an investment perspective.
Yeah, I'd love to welcome everybody to become part of our journey. We've come a long way. We have great IP, great technology. Our products are loving the product. And look, we're in it to make this a great success, and we invite everybody to come aboard with us and be part of our story.
And Kevin, final thoughts from you.
Jan Steele's further proof the Start Engine platform continues to grow because it works. And I'm obviously been associated with it because I'm a big believer in what we do. And finding deals like this, curating deals like this, making them available on a democratic basis with the founders, that's what the Start Engine mandate is. And this is an example of how we execute and make sure that we can bring the finest that we can find and bring them onto the platform for the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of investors that expect us to do exactly that. And I'd like to point out this is another example of why Start Engine works.
Great. Well, thank you both. As we come up on time here, Kevin, Jan, appreciate both of your time. Thank you to everyone for listening. To learn more and explore the investment opportunity, you can go to invest.virtuix.com. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.